Hello and welcome to the Freelancers Tea Break, the short and sweet podcast you can enjoy whilst you're making a cuppa. I'm your host, Emma Cossey, and this is the podcast for anyone who is already freelance or is thinking about going freelance. Hello and welcome back to another episode. I have pulled myself away from my switch to where I have been completely addicted to Pokepedia. I want to call it Pokepedia. I know it's Pokepedia. It is very addictive. If you want to get any work done this quarter, I do not recommend downloading it. But I wanted to record some episodes. I actually record this in March, late March for April, partly because I like to batch ahead anyway, but mainly because I'm actually going on holiday this month, which is actually something I'm terrible about doing. So going on an actual proper holiday, a cruise no less, is quite a big thing for me. So I'm trying to get everything done beforehand. So I have been thinking already about quarter two, which by the time you're listening to this will be just starting quarter two, which is April, May and June, which always feels like a weird time. Like the seasons feel like they fit, but the quarter two always feels like it just sits across spring and summer. But it's quite an important part of the year because it's also the start of the tax year, which means it's also the end of the tax year. So there's some things I thought it was worth mentioning to add to your quarter two to-do list, to have a think about right at the start. So the first one, and this is the kind of the biggie, is that for anybody who is has a gross income of over £50,000, making tax digital is now something that you need to not just be thinking about, but you need to be doing. It is going to be in the following next 2 or 3 years, reduced down so that it covers every income bracket. But at the moment, it's just if you have a gross income of over 50,000. And essentially what it is making sure that everything you have is available online and digitally. So you need to make sure that you're using HMRC approved software. You need to be recording all your bookkeeping digitally and getting ready for quarterly reporting rather than annual. Now, there's quite a lot in this, but those are kind of the key points. I have put a link in the show notes from my wonderful accountant, Harriet, who's gone through all the basics to have a think about. But if you have not already done this and your gross income is over 50,000, please put this right at the top of your to-do list. I would recommend doing it anyway digitally because it makes it so much easier. I've used Free Agent for many, many years. Before that, I used FreshBooks. And I think it's QuickBooks, Free Agent and Xero that are the approved ones, but have a look. It makes it so much easier. You can see everything that's coming and going. You can match up everything easier. I know lots of people are fantastic with their spreadsheets and everything like that, but you will need to be doing it digitally at some point. So now might be a good time to do that. Or if you're over that 50,000 threshold, you need to be doing that. If you've already got on top of that, great. Now is the time to make sure that you've got a new folder for the receipts for the next coming year, and in your email, a new folder there. One of the things actually I do is, and I need to update the automation for this. I use a tool which I cannot remember. Oh, Cloud HQ actually, I think, which means that whenever I put an email in a particular subfolder, it saves that email as a PDF in a Dropbox folder for my client, for my accountant. So it makes it really easy then because she's got access to all the PDFs, so I can just put everything in there. But obviously I need to update that automation to a new folder. But yeah, if you have a folder in your inbox that you use for all your receipts and subscriptions and things like that, make sure you update it to the new one. It just makes your life a lot easier. So yes, good time to get those kind of good systems in place. Make sure you're tracking everything. And also make sure you're kind of... like I have a reminder in my phone to check my finances each week. So if you don't already have this kind of habit, even if it's monthly, now is a good time to just carve out a little time in your calendar every month to just get on top of your accounts. If, like me, you hate doing nail counts and bookkeeping and numbers are not your friend, this might be a good time to have a look into bookkeeping. And actually, some of it can be really affordable. It doesn't have to cost a huge amount of money. To have a look at bookkeepers, or if your accountant offers that, that's something I would recommend. I also always recommend Harriet, my accountant. She's fantastic, and very, very affordable. So So that's kind of finance side. So first of all, make sure that all your systems are up to date. And also, if you haven't already, go down the Making Tax Digital route. Second thing is, if you set goals in quarter one, now's a good time to reflect on them. Not everybody does. So in my membership, every quarter, we have a session where we all reflect on the previous quarter and we set our new goals. But quarter one is always one we're saying, if you want to, excellent. If you'd rather just set intentions or a vibe, that's fine as well, because quarter one, smack bang in the middle of winter, lots of people are really not in the mindset for it, and they prefer to go with the kind of the natural spring kind of atmosphere to start their goal setting. So you don't have to set goals every quarter or even every month. I quite like a quarterly goal because it gives me a good amount of time. So if you did set any, now's a good time to reflect on them. So what went well in the first 3 months of the year? What didn't? More importantly, what did you learn? And what are some things that you're going to take forward with you? And what are some things that you are quite happy to leave behind in quarter one? And then it's a time to think about your quarter two goals, if that's something you do. So what do you want to achieve by the end of June? Where do you want to be with your business in 3 months? And I find it's quite useful to then think, in June, I'd like to be able to say, I've done X, Y, or Z. So like one of my quarter one goals was saying, by the end of March, I want to have been able to have launched my book and done a book launch, which I will have done. So that's quite exciting to say that I've done what I had hoped to be doing. And I think also it means that you don't just say, I want 5 clients or whatever. That feels very, financially, it's important to set those goals, but just to say, I want 5 clients, it just feels a bit soulless. But to say, I want to have felt like I've achieved this, or I want to have worked with 3 clients and created amazing websites that I can add to my portfolio, or I want to have reached even more people with my socials, or grown my mailing list and got to know more people, or ventured out of my comfort zone and went to networking and felt really confident about myself. Try and flesh out these goals as not just a fact, but how you want to feel about them and how you wanted it all to look. And sometimes I find just visualizing how it will be. So I love doing this most for the quarter 4 goals, because I imagine how I want to feel at Christmas. So that feels really warm to me. And I really struggle with the summer holidays. So sometimes I struggle a little bit with imagining how I want to feel at the end of quarter 2 and the end of quarter 3. But to just sit there and imagine what I want my home to look like, what I want my lifestyle to look like, what I want to be doing, that can all be really beneficial. I'm going off on a tangent now, so I'm going to pull it back. I hope that gives you some ideas. I'm going to recap quickly. So the first thing you need to do is make sure that you're ready for Making Tax Digital, and you've updated all your systems so that you're ready for the new tax year. And also, I should mention this as well. I know a lot of us feel like we don't have to do our self-assessment to January, but you can do it any time from the new tax year onwards for the previous tax year. If you do your self-assessment in the next month or 2, that gives you the whole of the rest of the year to think about what you've got to do for January. So if you are the kind of person that is not necessarily great at preparing for that kind of thing, or putting your money aside for it, at least that gives you 6 months of wiggle room or longer than that, to put that money aside and work out where to go from there. Whereas if you just do your self-assessment in January and then you get a surprise, there is no time for that. So maybe quarter 2 goals for you might be doing your self-assessment, or asking your accountant to do that. So Making Tax Digital, making sure your account software is up to date, reviewing your quarter 1 goals, and then setting those quarter 2 goals. So I hope that was useful, and I hope you have a wonderful freelance week.